The desolate, uncharted moon had become a silent graveyard, littered with the remains of warriors from both the Galactic Empire and the Yacha. The jungle, once still and untouched, now echoed with the sounds of battle, illuminated by the flashes of blaster fire. Darth Vader himself had descended upon this forsaken world, intent on eliminating the Yacha hunters who had decimated his forces. The air was thick with the screams of the dying, both stormtrooper and hunter alike, as the relentless fight pushed deeper into the darkened landscape. The battlefield shifted with the arrival of the Yacha mothership, its massive form breaking through the clouds and casting a long shadow over the blood-soaked ground. From within, the elder Predator and his elite hunters descended, their very presence intensifying the conflict. The Elder, with his immense power and centuries of hunting experience, stood as a living legend among his kind. His elite warriors, handpicked for this ultimate challenge, moved with lethal precision. Darth Vader stood tall, gripping his lightsaber tightly as he stared down these mighty hunters. Though the Sith Lord had faced countless foes and crushed rebellions across the galaxy, this was different. He could sense the raw, primal power emanating from the Elder Predator and his elite. A cold feeling settled in the pit of his stomach, a sense of uncertainty that he had not felt in years. The challenge was undeniable. The Yacha welcomed it, their thirst for the hunt growing with each stormtrooper they felled. But to them there was no greater prize than Vader himself. As the tension built to a breaking point, the atmosphere above them crackled with the sudden arrival of an Imperial starship, descending swiftly to reinforce Vader's position. The stormtroopers aboard prepared to join the fray, their numbers swelling the already chaotic battlefield. It seemed as though the confrontation between the Empire's greatest warrior and the galaxy's deadliest hunters would soon come to a head. But beneath the surface, something ancient and far more dangerous stirred. The moon, once a sacred hunting ground for the Yacha, held a dark secret, a dormant xenomorph hive, hidden deep within the earth, waiting for its time to rise again. The violent tremors of battle, the spilled blood, and the death cries of the fallen had awoken the hive, and from its depths, the Xenomorph Queen began to stir. As the clash above raged on, the Queen emerged, her terrifying brood following her, ready to defend their domain. The true nightmare had begun. Suddenly, the ground beneath the combatants rumbled. Vader halted his advance, sensing a disturbance in the Force, something primal, something far more dangerous than the Predators. The Elder Predator, too, stopped in his tracks, his thermal vision detecting rapid movements beneath the jungle floor. Both sides instinctively paused as a horrifying screech echoed through the jungle. Without warning, the earth erupted, and from the depths, hordes of xenomorphs poured out like a living tide. Black, sleek, and relentless, the xenomorph warriors descended upon both Empire and Yautja forces in a brutal onslaught. Stormtroopers screamed as they were dragged into the shadows, acid blood melting through their armor. Predators were ambushed by the horde, fighting valiantly with their wrist blades and plasma casters, but even the mighty hunters were overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. Chaos reigned. Vader spun into action, his lightsaber slicing through the xenomorphs with brutal efficiency. He wielded the Force to crush entire groups of them at once, but for every creature he killed, more seemed to take its place. His stormtroopers fired blindly, panic setting in as they realized they were fighting an enemy that would not stop, that would not feel fear. The Elder Predator, standing tall amidst the chaos, bellowed orders to his elite warriors. Their combi sticks and blasters ripped through the xenomorph horde, and they fought with unmatched savagery. But even the Yacha, seasoned hunters that they were, struggled against the seemingly endless wave. The battle had turned. This was no longer a fight between two warriors, this was survival. Wave after wave of xenomorphs swarmed the battlefield, led by their cunning and brutal queen. Her presence loomed large over the carnage, directing her hive with a terrifying intelligence. She was not merely a beast, but a ruler. Her spawn, the perfect killing machines, obeyed her every command. The jungle erupted into a war zone, the once vibrant greenery now drenched in crimson, contrasting against the brilliant blue of the sky. Acid blood splattered on all sides as xenomorphs fell, but their sheer numbers began to overwhelm even the most disciplined stormtroopers and elite predators. The ground was littered with the bodies of both hunters and Imperial soldiers, their bodies melting away in the aftermath of the xenomorphs' acidic attacks. Vader, fighting alongside his elite death troopers, unleashed the full power of the dark side. He choked xenomorphs from afar, throwing them into trees and rocks with violent force. But for every one he crushed, another two took its place. His mind burned with frustration, but he pressed on, realizing the only way to end this was to cut off the head of the hive, the Queen. The Elder Predator, too, knew what had to be done. Roaring to his remaining warriors, they regrouped, making a path through the swarm toward the Xenomorph Queen. They fought side by side with the stormtroopers, a strange alliance born out of necessity, each party recognizing that their survival depended on working together. The Queen watched them advance, her tail thrashing as she let out a shriek of fury, sending her strongest warriors to defend her. But even they could not stop the relentless march of Vader and the Elder Predator. As Vader and the Elder Predator neared the heart of the hive, the Xenomorph Queen emerged from the shadows, towering above them all. Her massive, skeletal form cast a long shadow, her acidic saliva dripping from her jaws as she screeched in rage. She charged forward, her claws tearing through trees and rocks as if they were paper. Vader and the Elder Predator exchanged a silent acknowledgement. Despite their rivalry, they would face this beast together. The Queen struck first, her massive tail sweeping toward them. Vader leaped into the air, narrowly avoiding the strike, while the Elder Predator activated his plasma caster, firing a powerful blast into the Queen's side. The creature screamed, the plasma scorching her exoskeleton, but she pressed on, her rage fueling her attacks. Vader charged, his lightsaber slashing at the Queen's legs, severing tendons and crippling her movement. She howled in pain, lashing out with her tail again, but the Elder Predator intercepted it with his combi stick, piercing the Queen's thick hide. The two warriors fought with perfect synchronization, Vader's precision and the Elder's brute strength, creating a lethal combination. The Queen, now wounded and cornered, let out a final roar and lunged at Vader. But the Sith Lord was faster. With a powerful leap, he drove his lightsaber through her skull, slicing clean through her armored head. The Queen let out one final, deafening screech before collapsing to the ground, her massive body convulsing in its death throes. The battle was over. The Xenomorph hive had been defeated, but the cost was immense. As the dust settled, the battlefield was littered with the bodies of stormtroopers, predators, and xenomorphs alike. The few remaining Yacha and stormtroopers stood silently, the weight of their losses heavy in the air. Vader deactivated his lightsaber, his breath slow and mechanical as he surveyed the carnage. The Elder Predator, bloodied but victorious, approached him. For a moment, the two warriors stood facing each other, surrounded by the corpses of their enemies. There was no need for words. The Elder Predator, in a gesture of respect, let out a low, rumbling growl, an acknowledgement of Vader's strength and the role he played in their survival. Vader, cold and unyielding, nodded in return. The dark side within him raged, but he understood the Predator's honor. They had fought together and triumphed, and in that moment there was mutual respect. The Elder turned to his remaining warriors and signaled them to retreat to the mothership. The Yautja began their withdrawal, but not before marking the ground with their symbols, a reminder that this moon, this battlefield, would remain a hunting ground for future generations. As the Yautja ship ascended into the sky, Vader turned back to his stormtroopers, gathering the few survivors. The Empire would regroup, but the cost had been high. The battle may have been won, but it was far from over. As the Yautja departed, the battlefield remained a desolate wasteland of death and destruction. But something sinister lingered in the aftermath. Among the dead, several Yautja warriors and stormtroopers lay motionless, their bodies seemingly untouched by the Xenomorph's acidic blood. Unbeknownst to their comrades, facehuggers had silently attacked these fallen warriors during the chaos, impregnating them with xenomorph larvae. The creatures now grew within them, waiting to burst forth. The moon, though seemingly cleared of the xenomorph threat, would not remain dormant for long. Soon, the next generation of xenomorphs would be born, some infused with the DNA of their hosts. Predalians and xenomorph warriors would rise, deadlier than ever before. The hunt would continue, and for the Yautja, this moon would become a worthy hunting ground once again. For both the Empire and the Yautja, the battle was over. But the legacy of the xenomorphs would live on, hidden within the bodies of the fallen. And so, the cycle would begin anew. The hunt was never truly over.